This is about the progressive revelation of God. Cain and Abel both built an altar, and both made a sacrifice. Cain brought the best of his crops that he had planted, and Abel brought his best lamb. He cut the throat of his best lamb and sprayed blood all over the altar. God accepted the messy blood sacrifice of Abel and rejected the pretty altar of Cain. They were both told to make a sacrifice to God, but only Abel had the revelation that it required blood. He knew that the blood pointed back to the original sin. Look at the chart. The tree was a person. The tree of life is a person. The tree of knowledge is a person. The fruit is the offspring. The seed, the sperm or the egg. The ground, the womb. In the midst of the garden, the reproductive part of the woman. Just goes on and on. He knew that the blood pointed back to the original sin and forward to the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross. Sometime later, Noah had to build an ark, and the message of Noah's day was to get into the ark and live. That was the only message that God accepted in Noah's day. Be born again is the message of the new church. And that message went through some very dark ages and was all but snuffed out. Then Martin Luther came out of the Roman Catholic Church with a little light. He could not build an ark like Noah did. That wouldn't have worked. He gave the light of his day, the just shall live by faith. Was this all the light? No way. But it was more light than the Roman Catholic Church had. And it was the move of God for that day. And it was the light for the hour. For he was the angel messenger to that church. Did most people move out of the Roman Catholic Church into the new light? No. They stayed and died in their dead formal church. There were more reformers to come, and John Wesley was one of them. And he brought forth another work of grace, which was sanctification by faith. More of God's light was brought forth. Did most receive this new light? No. They stayed right in their dead formal churches and did not move on with God. They had put walls up and they just couldn't come out of those walls. So God just left them. At the turn of the century, more light came with the return of the gifts of God. Yet most people just laughed at these fine people of God. Most did not turn to this move of God, for their churches said it was of the devil. They stayed in their old dead formal churches, and there they died. And in this last age, God sent a prophet with the spirit of Elijah, and he brought back the original word as it was with the first church. He had the complete vindication of God, yet most people in the churches rejected this true message of God because their church leaders rejected it. So as you can see, God has been progressively revealing himself, and most people missed it in every age. People are always speaking of what God did in times past or what God will do in the future, and missing what God is doing right now. There is life in only one, and that life is in the Son. He that has the Son has life. That life is not in the first or the second or the third person. It is in the only person of God. God became flesh and lived and walked with man. Jehovah of the Old Testament is Jesus of the New Testament. After Jesus' death and ascension, God condescended a little more and now lives in his people. There is a progressive revelation of God, and we must get back to the Bible truth as the first church had it, or else we perish. Thanks for listening.